Hey guys, this is Jason Carr once again. I'm back with a new LaunchBox Developer Sessions video. I couldn't believe the response that we got last week. With last week's video, I got incredible number of views and comments and everything else, so that's much appreciated. I guess I'm obligated to keep doing these videos now. But that's great. I want to be as engaged with you guys as I possibly can. Um, so, current state of LaunchBox. Just yesterday, we released LaunchBox 5.10. Really excited to get that out there because there's been a bunch of stuff that I've wanted to get in there for a very long time. Well, really, it's been like 3 weeks since 5.9. And originally, we intended 5.10 to be a quick release quickly after 5.9 is sort of a fixed release because there were quite a few bugs that we fixed in the process right after 5.9 came out. But we ended up putting more in there than we expected. One of the things that was a problem that we fixed with the 5.10 release is BigBox was locking up for some users because of the VLC integration, and we finally figured out what was causing that by basically just upgrading the VLC internal DLLs. The underlying VLC DLLs needed updated, and the whole problem after, it took me like 2 weeks to figure it out, but the whole problem was just that we had an outdated version of VLC being used for the DLLs. Programming is usually a lot more complicated than that, but in this case, it really just needed to be an update. So that's fixed, and then we've got MAME imports. Imports have been revamped like crazy. You probably already know about that because we've been talking about that a lot. But it's really great because you can now filter out all the crap like the fruit games and the casino games and all that stuff really easy. And at the end, when you're done importing everything, it no longer has a bunch of missing data. Everything is there correctly with correct metadata. All right. We also reduced the startup time just a hair. We we replaced controller auto hotkey stuff with controller automation. And controller, basically what I did is I recoded the entire controller auto hotkey solution with my own custom code. And I had to do that because of the driver issues with the controllers and Microsoft drivers I talked about last week. But that's been replaced, and now that should work across the board, even on Windows 10 and even with um, multiple devices, and then also even with devices or Xbox One controllers. So hopefully all your auto hotkey close, the button combinations for closing games and volume control and stuff like that should be working well again for everyone again. So it's exciting to get all that stuff out. I guess today I had an interesting time uh, during the release yesterday because shortly after I released 5.10, I got multiple notifications from several different people that Kaspersky Antivirus was labeling it as a virus. And I tell you, the single most frustrating thing I've had to deal with uh, since I started putting out LaunchBox is antivirus programs uh, falsely labeling my stuff as having a virus in it. And I think that's, from what I've read, it's typical for developers to have to deal with that these days. And it really boils down to the fact that antivirus programs are pretty much crap. The false positives are all over the place. So I don't know how they expect users to be able to trust the antivirus software when there's a million false positives all over the place because it's like the boy who cried wolf. But anyways, that's a rant. The one thing I can say with antivirus stuff is don't go and buy Kaspersky. Don't go and buy McAfee. Don't go and buy Norton or any of those other programs because Windows 8 and Windows 10 come with built-in antivirus protection. And as far as my experience goes, it's as good as any other antivirus protection. It's less intrusive than the other crap, and it actually doesn't have the horrible false positives that some of these other programs have. So, in my opinion, the best thing to do if you're running Windows 8 or Windows 10, just use the stuff that's on by default that comes with Windows. You don't need additional antivirus stuff these days because Microsoft, I mean, they built it in it works well. Nobody even knows it's on, but very few people have trouble with viruses these days, at least if you're running Windows 8 and Windows 10, because Microsoft has this stuff built in. So that would be my recommendation. Stick with the Microsoft antivirus. Anyways, enough of that tangent. The other thing we did this past week was we the LaunchBox Games database. Oh man, we've been working like crazy. I'm not even sure what we did last week with the LaunchBox Games database, but I will say that this week, just today, I got done adding support for adding new games to the LaunchBox Games database. So that is there. I'm still working on some of the moderation pieces, but I should be able to wrap that up tomorrow, and we'll finally have adding new games to the LaunchBox Games database available. So that is the current state of LaunchBox. Going forward, I'm going to be focusing on tweaking some minor things on the LaunchBox Games database, stuff like moderation, comments, and things like that to make the whole process a lot smoother. And then also, I want to get back into BigBox development here very quickly. That's come up a lot recently, and people are right. It's been a while since I've been able to really dive deep into BigBox development. So that is going to be a focus here coming up soon. So I'm excited to get back into BigBox development here shortly. We did do a lot with VLC in BigBox recently, but that's not anything that people will get excited about. So we haven't done anything really with BigBox that makes people excited in quite a while. So that's what I'm most excited about right now as far as getting back to for the next week. All right, so I wanted to address these 10 million questions that we got in the comments. So I'm going to move through these pretty quickly, and I'm going to try and cover everything that I didn't cover in comments, at least. So we'll start with Dean K. And he says, will we see the addition of an integrity check for ROMs that are in the database, but the file has been deleted or moved from its file location? Of course, the first question here is crazy difficult. But as far as CRC checksums and integrity checks for ROMs, I think that is a good idea to add to the LaunchBox Games database, so we will be doing that. I don't think that's going to happen immediately, or maybe probably not in the next month, but once we have the basics all there for the LaunchBox Games database, maybe after 6.0 comes out, we can look into what it would take to add some CRC checksum stuff to the LaunchBox Games database and build it into LaunchBox so that ROMs can be identified by their footprint instead of by the name of the file, and some related things there. I hope that covers that question. I didn't fully understand every aspect of that question, but so hit me up in the comments on this video, Dean, if you want me to get into that deeper. Will there be a way of finding duplicate ROMs in the collection and removing them? I think that's sure. I think that's a good idea to add. We don't really have anything like that in LaunchBox right now, but I do think that is a good idea to add going forward in the future. So it's a good time to mention the Bitbucket ticket system. If you haven't checked that out, I think if you go to the website and click the link for issues, feature requests, issues, something like that at the top in the header, that'll take you to the Bitbucket ticket system, and we can add tickets for feature requests and bugs and all kinds of stuff like that. And then finally, will there be a cover flow menu for the ROM selection menu in forthcoming releases? That's a good request. I have seen that one before, but it's probably been a year actually since someone requested cover flow. So that's a great idea. And again, we can put a Bitbucket ticket in there for that, and prioritize it that way. The reason why we like to put Bitbucket tickets in for everything is because users can vote on those tickets, and then I can see easily what the most popular requests are, the bugs versus the new features, and we can track each individual thing so that we know what's been fixed, what we still have to do, and all kinds of stuff, what we've added. So that's why we use Bitbucket for that stuff. Okay, next we have Disease with a 5 for the S. He says, if you want any feedback on the video, Probably better to sit down at the computer when you film it. Here we go. No lower angle camera autofocus problems. Yeah, I'm using a new Logitech, what is it, a C920, I think, that I picked up off Amazon. Yeah, so hopefully it works well for us. It certainly isn't the most expensive camera in the world, but hopefully it'll do decent for these videos. And hopefully the autofocus problems are gone, especially since I'm sitting in one place. And he says, "Iron that T-shirt, smiley face." I'm not sure I'm dressed much better than I was last video, but hopefully that isn't too much of an issue. He says, "Thanks for the update. How many people are currently on the team?" So the team right now it started with just me, and as far as development is concerned, it still is just me. But Brad, you guys know Brad. You've seen Sentai Brad around. He's awesome. He's putting out videos for us all the time, and I've hired him on as a contractor to help with video content production and also to help people with issues on the forums. And because I enjoy doing that stuff, I've done a lot of that stuff in the past. But man, if I do all the stuff that Brad does on the forums and all the stuff that all the videos that he creates and all that stuff, I'd have no time for development. So really appreciate having Brad on the team. He does a lot of great work for us. I know you guys have all seen the tutorial videos. He does good work. So appreciate having him. But right now it's just the two of us. Brad's on video content and forum support, and I'm on development primarily. But of course I do a little bit of everything. So that's that. Let's see. Another thing I wanted to bring up regarding the team, one thing we've been considering adding is sort of paid support by the hour, and I don't know how how requested that would be, or how many people would actually take us up on that. But we actually have had a guy request it, and we went through a support session with him. Brad did, and it went very, very well. So we're wondering if we should be publicly offering that as an option. So one thing I would be interested to know is if anybody would consider paying, say, $50 an hour, because I gotta pay Brad something, to do a support session with Brad, or maybe even with me or with somebody else, whatever, to see if that's just to help out with pretty much anything with your collection if you're running into an issue. So I'd be interested to know if that's something anyone would be interested in, and figure out what the community appeal is for that, so we can better know if that's something worth pursuing at all. All right, and then I have Ali Essa, and he asks, when will BigBox customization be ready? What are you going for? Something like Kodi where users can make themes? Yeah, so BigBox stuff, like I said, I want to get back into it very soon. And I'm not going to lie to anybody, creating a theming system for BigBox or for LaunchBox is a big challenge. It's a lot of work. But it's also something that excites me. I really want to get there. I want to be able to get a system going where users can create their own themes and share them with the community and all that stuff, because I think that'll really help to take BigBox over the edge. And frankly, the #1 requested feature from Hyperspin users, people coming away from Hyperspin, is they want the theming support. So that is definitely a priority for me, although I have to weigh that priority against the challenge and difficulty and time it'll take to make a system like that. But definitely that is on the docket. Before we get there, before we end up doing an entire theming system, and probably one of the next things I'm going to be doing is adding additional view options into BigBox. For example, like a box art view like LaunchBox in BigBox, some more different types of views, just like Kodi has. If you open up Kodi, you have like 3 or 4 or 5 different types of views when you're viewing your movies. And I want to do the same kind of thing with BigBox. So that is the immediate goal. And then hopefully eventually we'll be able to create an entire theming system where you can do anything there. And I plan, when I do create that theming system, I plan to take a look at how Kodi is built and how Kodi's theming system is built to see if we can closely match that, so that it's relatively easy to do. So that is the deal with the theming system. I have big plans. I want to go all the way with it, but we need to take small steps in order to get there, I think. All right, Critical Sid is next, and he says, "Hey Jason, I really like the idea of your new video series, but maybe you should sit next time. You're really looking nervous when you permanently step back and forth." So I'm not sure if I'm any less nervous looking now because I'm still moving like crazy and talking quickly and everything like that. I'm not really nervous for what it's worth. However, I'm not the most socially advanced person in the world either. But anyways, good to see you, Sid. Sid's on our forums all the time, and that's much appreciated. So I've gotten to know Sid pretty well. By the way, anybody who isn't on the forums, the community we have on the forums is just awesome. Any questions you have, we have a community that can answer them. Where everybody in the community is nice, and if you're not nice, we'll kick you out. So it's a really great way to get answers. And if you have extra time in your hands and you have some knowledge on how to answer some emulation questions and related stuff like that, we'd love to have you helping out answering questions as well. So that's just on the website, just the forum link at the top of the www.launchbox-app.com website. Back to Critical Sid here. He says, "Is your current focus more on developing for the database or for LaunchBox itself?" So yeah, I was wondering, honestly, I was wondering when I might get some pushback on, hey, you're putting too much time into the database. And I haven't gotten a lot of that because I think people are pretty pleased with the way that's going. But the way it works is I've been working on both of them, on and off, back and forth. And I know it feels like I haven't put out a whole lot for LaunchBox or BigBox the last couple of weeks, but man, there's just been some killer bugs that have driven me nuts. So I've had to focus more on bugs for the last couple of weeks as far as the applications than actual new features for LaunchBox and BigBox. But now I'm excited because we've got all the bugs fixed, at least the terrible ones that were really causing problems. So now we can finally get back to some new features for LaunchBox and BigBox. The way this works, I'm really happy to have the LaunchBox Games database to work on, as well as LaunchBox and BigBox, because as a developer, it helps to keep me energized and excited and enthusiastic about developing new things and all that stuff when I have more than one project to touch. So having the LaunchBox Games database as well as LaunchBox and BigBox to work on at the same time really helps me to keep pushing and keep moving, because inevitably you're going to get tired of a project. And I'm certainly not tired of working on LaunchBox and BigBox, don't get me wrong, because the way it works is if I take a week break, like I used to do before I was doing this full time, I would take a week break and I'd get the itch to come back. But now that I'm doing this full time, it's really awesome. It really helps to have several different projects so that if I get tired of working on a particular one, I can jump to another one, is kind of the point I'm trying to make. So I'm always touching all of them all at the same time. Right, I will admit that the LaunchBox Games database has been more of a focus in the last, I don't know, I want to say month than I plan it to be going forward, that's for sure. But that's largely because of all the work to do with the LaunchBox Games database. We've been rushing to get that site up as quickly as possible because of the issues with the GamesDB.net being down, and we switched everything over literally in like a week to the LaunchBox Games database and threw out a new version because it was everybody was unable to get metadata and images. So it's really been, to a certain extent, it's been putting out fires. And of course, I don't want the database to be out there without a way to be able to edit it and add images and all that stuff. So clearly, it's been a priority in order to get the LaunchBox Games database going. I don't expect to focus more on the LaunchBox database than LaunchBox and BigBox in the future. I expect to move focus even more back towards LaunchBox and BigBox. I will say I don't feel like LaunchBox and BigBox have lost focus in the last month. because we've done a lot of development on that. But at the same time, yeah, there's a lot of development going on with the games database. So I definitely want the option of being able to work on any of them, just in case I get burned out on a particular project. Let's see. Do you still plan to integrate a scraper for Giant Bomb or Moby games when they release an API, or do you plan something different like cross-referencing Giant Bomb Moby with the database to fill in all the gaps? So the thing is with that, I have actually had several people offer me up their own personal customized data for a lot of games. So I have lots and lots and lots of data that users have collected, that they're going, and they've collected it from multiple sources usually, that they're going to provide me with to fill in the gaps. But we also have to remember that with LaunchBox 6.0, the goal is to allow everyone to upload basically their entire library of metadata to the games database. And so this stuff, I don't think we're going to have gaps very long. I think the gaps are going to go away pretty quick. It's not to say I'm not still interested in integrating a scraper for Giant Bomb or Moby games, but frankly, I got tired of waiting on sites for APIs. I'm not sure if Giant Bomb has an API, but between the issues with the GamesDB.net being down all the time and waiting for the Moby Games API, I just kind of got tired of waiting and we decided to do our own thing. So certainly when the Moby Games API does become ready, I will put that on the docket to implement into LaunchBox. It probably won't be that high of a priority, but it will be on the to-do list. I don't really want to just steal all the data from Moby Games or Giant Bomb or anywhere else and just do a big data dump, because I think that feels a little bit mean. So we did do that to the Games DB, but we only did that because they specifically say on their website that people are allowed to do that and they actually encourage it. So man, props to them for allowing the data to be taken like that. They've really encouraged open data, and I want to do the same thing with the LaunchBox Games database. As it is right now, when you download LaunchBox, you get every single piece of metadata automatically in an XML file from the LaunchBox Games database, and that's never going to change. So all the data is freely available for the LaunchBox Games database as well. So it's going to be open just like the GamesDB.net was or is. All right, so how do you decide what new feature you integrate in LaunchBox BigBox next? For example, I noticed that none of the requested features on Bitbucket with 10 upvotes or more were implemented so far. So I get a little curious. So there have been a lot of upvoted features that we have implemented. So we can load up that list, and I can take a look, and we could compare and do all that stuff. But frankly, I have, since we focus more on Bitbucket, I have focused more on bugs than on the new features from Bitbucket. My priority is to make the experience smooth before I implement any new features. So I mean, I've closed probably 100 different bug tickets in the last month or two. So that has been a focus, and I recognize that it probably gets irritating when the most voted tickets aren't always the ones that I'm working on. But I always have to weigh. It's not as simple as let me just tackle the stuff that's got the most votes. I'd love for it to be that simple, but it's not quite that simple. I have to focus on lots of different things at once. One thing is how long it's going to take for me to do something. I have to weigh that against whether it's something I'm interested in working on, whether it's something that is going to take forever to do, and whether it's something that is, even though it's got a lot of votes on Bitbucket, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to, it is a feature that everybody wants. Because there is a difference between the vocal community, which they're the part of the community that I appreciate the most, but there's a difference between the vocal community and the masses. And unfortunately, the sad truth is that it's different opinions between the power users and the masses. So to a certain extent, I have to do what the masses needs, um, as well as what the power users need. So there's lots of complications there. I, I promise I will get back to that list very, very soon. I don't review that list every day as far as the most important features. Or the most voted items on that list. I try and review it weekly, so that when I'm planning out what's coming in the future, I can make educated decisions based on those votes. So I don't want to downplay that voting system, because it's very important, and it does give me a good concept of how many users are interested in certain features. But again, I have to weigh that against so many different factors as far as determining what to work on next. So it's a complicated decision process, and I don't claim to be the best to decide what features should come next. Historically, I haven't made the best decisions in the world. It's a hard process to decide what should come next with LaunchBox. And I do the best that I can, but I can always be convinced. So and I appreciate passionate requests. I don't really like insults, of course, but I appreciate passionate requests. So if you think you have good reasons for me to implement something now, I'm not offended if you get on the forums and say, hey, look, I really think this needs to be done as soon as possible. Do voice your minds there. I won't be offended by any of that kind of stuff. I appreciate all that kind of feedback. So if you notice that you think I'm really not doing a good job focusing on what the community wants, then let me know. I will say that on Reddit this past week, I noticed that there were a lot of people who weren't so pleased about focusing on social features going forward for the LaunchBox Games database, and I heard them. I get it. They're saying, a lot of the retro gamers are saying, look, I don't really want to have social features. Stop wasting your time on that and work on stuff for LaunchBox and BigBox that's more important. And I get that, and I read that this week and thought, gee, maybe I should refocus a little. So I want that kind of feedback so I can help make the best decisions as far as what to work on next. I do get a lot of feedback, but it's always hard to figure out what's the most important. But knowing that a lot of people haven't been that excited about the social features doesn't mean I don't want to do it. But it does mean that it probably won't be as big of a priority as I was planning on making it, now that I've gotten all that feedback. So I'm not as eager to jump on that stuff because of all the feedback that I got from that this past week. So do let me know if you're excited about the LaunchBox Games Database social features, or if you're not. Because I want to be able to make an educated decision along those lines going forward as far as what to focus on. All right. So I'm going to butcher this name, but El Charawi, I don't know. What are your favorite game systems? Oh boy, that's hard, but I think, well, I got to go back to my youth, I think, and start with what I grew up on. When I was a kid, we always had great computers in the house, but we didn't always have good game systems. I started out with an Atari 2600, but I had that when the NES was out, maybe even the Super Nintendo was out. I was still stuck with an Atari 2600 and nothing else from a console perspective. But I always had good, and they were always MS-DOS PCs growing up. So, as a matter of fact, at one point when I was like 10 or 11, something like that, I was bored out of my mind because I didn't have many friends. And so I went down to the basement and I found my dad's old 8086 computer, PC. It was a little Packard Bell thing. Well, it was big, actually. It wasn't little. But that's what got me started. I took that up to my room, put it together. It took me about a day to figure out how to put the thing all together, but I got it together. And then I just started reading the DOS manual and figuring out commands and commands and commands and playing old old games. I mean, it was a 16 color CGA monitor, 640K of RAM. So those big 5 and 1/4 inch floppy disks, old school stuff. But I grew up on MS-DOS. So from a nostalgia perspective, I have the most nostalgia for MS-DOS games, particularly the King's Quest series, the classic id Software shooters, Doom, Quake, Doom 2, Wolfenstein 3D was the first one I got into. Those games, oh man, I love the id Software shooters, the classic shooters. They amaze me, and it's not just that they were technologically advanced for the time, but they had a charm about them that I just haven't found anywhere else. I still play the Doom series, Doom 1 and Doom 2. I still play Quake and Quake 2 more than once a year, just because I love those games, and the nostalgia is huge for me with those games. So that's really where the majority of my nostalgia comes from. There's too many DOS games to name and count, but as far as favorite systems and games, really it comes down to MS-DOS. So that to me that's why DOSBox is so huge for me personally, because that's what I grew up with, and actually DOSBox is what I based LaunchBox off for to begin with. So there's that. As far as consoles, I actually, since I didn't have an NES and an SNES and a Sega Genesis and all that stuff growing up, I love those platforms. I think they're amazing. There's a lot of games I love, but they're not on my favorite systems list because I never had one growing up. So when I started to get systems, I started with like the Nintendo GameCube and the Xbox and stuff like that. So, but I think my favorite systems consoles are probably the Xbox and the Xbox 360. Now, I probably don't have good reasons for that, but I just love the vast array of games that's available for the Xbox and the Xbox 360. I love Nintendo systems, but it's like a side pocket of gaming for me. Console gaming to me, I love Xbox. I'm not so much of a big fan of Xbox One. I think it's a great platform, and I think the games there's some awesome games for it, but I still find the Xbox One irritating because it's got too many glitches. It's just not stable enough. Although I will admit it's done a lot better for me in the last few months, something like that. But when I first got my Xbox One, man, it was a joke. It was broken way too often. Never been too much of a Sony fan. I think I'm just bitter, frankly. I think I'm just bitter back from the Blu-ray versus HD DVD days. So I'm still holding a grudge against Sony for that. Anyways, that's another topic completely. As far as modern games that are my favorites, or semi-modern, these are retro these days. But I love the Tony Hawk series, believe it or not, and not the new Tony Hawk games. The modern Tony Hawk games are crap. But Tony Hawk 1, 2, 3, and 4, incredible games. Oh man, I put so many hours in those games, it's ridiculous. I beat all of them with all the extras and all that crap. So that's favorite series of mine. Another favorite series is Prince of Persia. The classics on MS-DOS, those are big. Of course, Prince of Persia 1 and 2, but then the reboot that came with the Xbox and the PS2, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, Warrior Within, those games, those are some of the best games I've ever played. If we jump more modern, of course, I've got the typical favorites. I loved BioShock Infinite. Who doesn't? I actually really enjoyed Dishonored when I played through Dishonored. What else have I played? Oh, Tomb Raider, the Tomb Raider reboot that came out, I think, in 2013. That was a huge one for me. I loved that game. And actually, I haven't played the Tomb Raider 2 that just came out recently, so I'm excited about that. Let's see, what else? Of course, I'm really excited about Doom 4. I'm chomping at the bit for that one. Anyways, however, I haven't even played it because I want the single player campaign. I'm not that big into online multiplayer. So that's I've talked about games for enough. enough time, I think, here. So we'll move on to Robinson Paulino. He says, are you going to make LaunchBox available for Android devices in the future? And the answer is yes. I hope so. I plan to. I hope we can get there. It's a big job, a super, super big job. I have built an Android app in the past. It was called AudioLog HD. I think I took it down from the market because I wasn't updating it anymore. So I know how to make Android Android apps, so it's something I could do. But I feel like I need to focus on Windows here before I dive into Android or Linux. And I still have more work to do from that front before we get there. The other concept that I want to bring up is that operating systems, it feels like operating systems to a certain extent are moving towards death. And what I mean by that is web is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so one of the things that excites me about the LaunchBox Games database, we have your whole collection in the cloud and all that stuff. There's a good reason for that, because it's not going to be that long before people just start doing everything on the web, and the web gets even more prioritized than it is right now. And I fought that for a long, long time because, the web is crap compared to a desktop application. It really is the truth. But, when you put stuff on the web, you can do the same stuff anywhere and all this stuff. So to a certain extent, I expect the web to take more priority than various other operating systems. Not to say that I'm not going to build a version for Linux and build a version for Android. I still hope we can do that. But I think a bigger priority is actually allowing people to manage and play their entire collections, literally play their collections from a web browser. And I know the My Collection features will do a lot of that. A lot of that already, but they're pretty far off from allowing that kind of support. But I do think that would be a good direction to go in the future. If we can take all of LaunchBox features and put it into the web browser, I think that's huge. Obviously, BigBox, no way. That's not something that we could do. But as far as games management and all that stuff, it feels like putting that stuff in a web browser would be a good idea. Now, if you disagree, let me know, because I can be convinced otherwise. And I still hope we can put out apps for other platforms. But I'm wondering if by the time we get there, it would be smarter to just move the majority of that stuff to the web, because it is possible to create a web-based system that launches your emulators and all your games. That's very possible and can be done. And I hope we get there. So a little bit of direction that's running around in my head right now regarding other operating systems and the web. All right, now I'm going to butcher this name as well. Adik Ramen, I think, would be my guess how you pronounce that. He says, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? So certainly, I am a father of 3. I'm married with 3 kids, love my family a ton. I get to work from home, praise the Lord, which is incredible, thanks to you guys. And I love being able to stay at home with the family and never leave the house, because I love to work on my stuff and talk with you guys and just be a hermit, basically. But I probably do need to get out more. But anyways, other stuff about me, I love music. I love making music. I actually have plenty of music up on the web. Beyond that, so music and games and software development are my main focuses, what I enjoy. I think that's enough about me. Moving on, RG Teleporter says, any chance of seeing any BigBox updates in the near future? I think I already covered that for the most part. Yes, I hope to get back to BigBox extremely soon, very quickly, potentially as early as next week, to get some new features going on in BigBox. DJ Quad, I got two more people here. DJ Quad says, some sort of Twitch and or YouTube live streaming from LaunchBox would be very cool. Most use OBS, Open Broadcaster software, and both that and Twitch have APIs, and there's an entire retro gaming category on Twitch. Any thoughts in the next video? I think that's a great idea. So let me know if you guys want to turn this into more of a live streaming thing, because that's basically all I'm doing. I'm just, talking here. So if we should turn this into a more of a Twitch thing, if you'd appreciate being able to send me comments live as I'm doing these videos, and you'd be able to get on maybe around 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening Pacific Standard Time, around that time, something like that, to be here for a live feed. Let me know, and we can look into that. I've never set any of that stuff up, but I know Brad has, so he can certainly help out with that. All right, so and then finally the last question I have here is Jessman51781. He says, when you say cloud, are there going to be games in the cloud? A dream would be a gaming Netflix style setup for people that build arcades. They can just log in and boom, setup is done. I think that's awesome. That's an awesome idea. I'm not sure from a legal perspective that's all that possible, at least without getting support from publishers and all that stuff, as far as us providing the ROMs and us providing, the emulators and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure that we can ever get there, unfortunately, but I hope we can, because that would be really, really cool. I agree. In the meantime, what I do want to do with the web is something I've already covered. I want to make it so that you can use the web to play the games that you have on your local machine or in your Dropbox. So say you have Dropbox installed on your machine, you have Dropbox installed on 3 different machines, you should be able to navigate your collection anywhere in the world on the web, and potentially even download your ROMs and your emulators from Dropbox automatically and play them on any machine in the world. For example, I think that should be feasible. That should be possible. So the concept of cloud can be interpreted many different ways, and we don't necessarily have to be the ones that provide the ROMs and all the emulators and get involved with all that legal stuff that could get in the way of a lot of things. So I think there's lots of opportunities there. So the cloud excites me too, being able to do stuff without any setup. Obviously, one of the main goals of LaunchBox has been make it as easy as possible. Unfortunately, I don't think we can get to the point where we can ever be the one who provides the ROMs and all that stuff unless we start talking with publishers, and then of course we have to charge people and all kinds of stuff. So that's not necessarily something that's going to be all that possible. But then again, I don't know, stuff that is proven to be abandoned, we might be able to do that with. So there's opportunities out there for all that kind of stuff. Just need some research, and we need to figure out, what the risks are and all that kind of stuff going forward. So thank you guys. I've enjoyed answering you guys' questions, and I hope I haven't run on for too long here. It's probably, I don't know, I haven't looked at the time. It's probably been an hour. I don't know. So let me know how you like this format, how well it went, whether it was too long, whether you appreciate all the extra information, or whether I need to make it more brief. Give me more questions for the next video. Let me know about the possibility of doing a live feed with Twitch, and we'll go from there. Thank you much, guys, and I will see you next week.